welcome to the video. It's Tuesday, August 24th, and we're breaking down this massive 14-game slate that we have over on DraftKings. And unlike yesterday's slate, we have a lot of good options, whether it be from pitching or offense today, so I'm definitely looking forward to breaking this one down. And if you do find this video helpful in any way possible, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. If you want to take that one step further, become an official member over on Patreon. Link is down below in the description for that if you do want access to some extra content. Although since it's near the end of the month, if you guys do want to sign up now, you can get this last week free. I'll be more than happy to hit that refund button for you as long as you do stay signed up on September 1st. And we have football coming up, so a lot of things to be excited about. And last but not least, this video is sponsored by Prize Picks. I'm sure most of you know what it is by now, but if you don't, it's daily fantasy sports simplified, just you versus the projections. There's no sharks, 150 max contests, or salary cap restrictions or anything like that. Just you versus the props they offer each and every single day. And as of right now, if you're a new signee over on Prize Picks, you can use code CPENN to get a free money bonus. It's an instant deposit match up to $100 when you tell them I sent you. But I think that's it for the plugs for the most part. So without further ado, let's dive into today's video. As always, we'll start with the pitching, then move on to the bats. And we have quite a few good pitching options today. I think you can't go wrong with any of these pitchers that I have listed. But we'll start up top here with the ace of the slate, Corbin Burnes at $10,600. I'll be honest, he's not my favorite pitcher to spend up for. If you can fit him in the same lineup as Jack Flaherty today, I'd have no problem with that whatsoever. It's just a little bit expensive at pitching. But as I always say, DraftKings makes it really easy to double spend up for a pitcher this year. But Corbin Burnes still in a decent spot enough here versus Cincinnati. There are some guys that will strike out in the lineup. The problem is there are some guys that have plenty of power, and I wouldn't say pitching in Milwaukee is exactly the greatest thing in the world, but he's been doing that all season long, so I think he'll be just fine here. Plus, it's the lowest implied team total on the slate at 3.16. Pretty heavy favorite, 8K prop over in Vegas, and if we're looking at the numbers for Corbin Burnes this year, nothing's really changed. Still elite all around. Low ERA, low xFIP, low SIERA, 35.1% K rate. The walks are low. He limits the power, gets a lot of ground balls. I mean, I don't really have anything bad to say about Corbin Burnes. If you're looking at the numbers for Cincinnati versus righties this year, again, it's not like a great matchup or anything. They're only striking out 23.1% of the time. ISO close to 200, a 341 WOBA, and a 109 WRC+, so it's not going to be a cakewalk here for Corbin Burnes, but if he's on his game, you can always get the strikeouts, and everything I think will be fine. It's just raw points-wise, he's going to grade out the best. Although I will say I think Jack Flaherty is a better overall play, especially once you factor in the price tag and fit in both. I think that would probably be the best way to go. And then moving down to Jack Flaherty here, he's about $1,000 cheaper than Corbin Burnes, and to be honest, he's got to be my favorite pitcher in the slate here. Similar implied team total against him at 3.2. Very heavy favorite, 7K prop over in Vegas, and Detroit is a team that will strike out quite a bit, whether it be versus lefties or righties. And ever since returning from injury, Flaherty has been pretty phenomenal for the most part. He's been pretty good all season long. I will say his xFIP and SIERA about a run higher than his ERA, so he's due for his luck to change a little bit, but I don't think that'll come versus Detroit. If we're looking at their numbers versus right-handed pitching this season, striking out roughly 26% of the time. Now, they're not absolutely terrible this year in some departments, like the ISO's at 160 now, which isn't amazing, but it's still up there. WRC plus is close to 90, WOBA around 300, OBP around 300, but they do strike out quite a bit, and Jack Flaherty is a guy that can generate plenty of strikeouts, strikeout rate close to 27% on the season, but he limits the power. $9,600, I think he is your number one cash game pitcher on the slate. And then dropping down to Charlie Morton here, $9,000, I think he's a very interesting tournament option versus the Yankees because it's obviously kind of a scary spot. We have plenty of guys with power here, like Anthony Rizzo, Joey Gallo, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton. Like, all these guys do have some power, but they also strike out quite a bit as well. And we saw Huascar Noah last night. I think last time I looked, he had 7 strikeouts. I forget if he got any more than that, but I mean, Noah's a good pitcher, and like the Yankees do strike out. Like, yeah, they could get a homer or two versus Morton, but even then, if he does, he could still get around like 8 strikeouts and pay off his price point if he doesn't get hammered in the run department, which I don't think he will. 4.2 implied team total against him. He is a slight favorite here, 6.5K prop over in Vegas, and if we're looking at his numbers on the season, pretty darn good. xFIP at 3.3, SIERA around 3.5, 28.5% K rate for the most part. Gets a decent amount of ground balls. He limits the power. I mean, I think he's actually a pretty good tournament play today. Jack Flaherty is going to be uber chalk. At least that's what my assumption would be. I think he's going to be the highest owned pitcher on these slates. So if you're looking for a direct pivot, Morton at $600 cheaper, I think has similar upside. It's just a bit of a scarier spot. So there's more risk there. But I think the upside warrants him for tournaments. Then dropping out some potential SP2s if you're not double spending up for a pitcher today. We have German Marquez, $8,200, pitching on the road in Wrigley. I will say the weather in Wrigley today is going to be very beneficial to the bats, around 90 degrees and the wind blowing out. So you gotta be a little bit careful with that because the wind blowing out for Wrigley is almost like Coors Field sometimes, especially when it's going to be that hot. Keep in mind, this is such a bad Cubs team right now. I think the current roster is striking out like 30% of the time versus righties like the past few weeks now. Overall in the season, they have a 27% strikeout rate versus righties, not really walking too much, and the numbers are pretty bad. But plus Marquez is a guy that gets a lot of ground balls, so even then, when they hit the ball. I don't think it's really going to go too far in the air anyway, so I don't think it's going to affect him too much. Only a 4 implied team total here. He's a slight favorite, 6K prop over in Vegas, and his numbers in the season are pretty darn solid. XFIP and Sierra, both good enough, both below 4, 25% K rate, 52% ground ball. He doesn't really give up too much homers or power. $8,200 versus pretty much the worst offense in baseball right now. I mean, I think Marquez is definitely a very solid play. Look, if Sensatella can have a decent game versus them, I think Marquez could definitely do that as well. And then dropping down to Madison Bumgarner here, $7,100. I don't think I've ever rostered him yet this year, but I like this price point. I like that he's on the road in Pittsburgh. It's a good pitcher's park, and they're just a very, very bad hitting team right now. And he hasn't been terrible this year. Like, the numbers aren't super amazing, but if you look at the final results fantasy points wise, he's actually been having some pretty decent games recently. But only 21% K rate, XFIP Sierra all in the 4s, which I don't love. The walks aren't really a bit of an issue, only a 5% walk rate, but he's give up a lot of fly balls. He will give up some power, but Pittsburgh is a team that pretty much has zero power whatsoever. Like, versus lefties this season, they have an abysmal 78 WRC plus, a 287 WOBA, only a 122 team ISO. They don't really strike out, but I mean, I can't see Madison Bumgarner getting killed here. If he can go like 5-6 innings with a handful of strikeouts and give a run or two and maybe pick up the win, I mean, that's a pretty good day at $7,100. And I really don't hate the play here, as ugly as it feels to roster Bumgarner. But with that being said, I think that'll be it for the pitching, so we'll move right over to today's stacks. And we're going to start off with the Boston Red Sox here at home in Fenway Park, a very hitter-friendly park, versus a young pitcher in Griffin Jax, who's given up plenty of power so far this season. He's actually given up more to righties than he has versus lefties, but I mean, it's still not that great either way, and we can use the entire lineup. I realize this is a bit of an expensive lineup, but if you can pair them up with some cheaper bats, like a mini stack from a cheap team or something like that, or some one-offs, I think we can make it work today. But Kike leading off, hard not to like him on a team total at 6. Rafael Devers, he's one of the top home run calls the entire day. Xander Bogaerts, Kyle Schwarber. I love that price tag on Kyle Schwarber. I think he's going to be very chalky today, only $4,500. Projected about cleanup here. I mean, he's had over 300 ISO on the season. I love Kyle Schwarber today. JD Martinez, Alex Verdugo, Hunter Renfroe. The entire lineup is playable. My favorite plays would be like Kyle Schwarber, Rafael Devers, but like I said, I like everybody on Boston today. Team total around 6. Griffin Jax has a bit of a power problem right now, so you can load up on the Red Sox with confidence. And then moving on to maybe not the best offense out there, but they draw a really good matchup versus Spencer Watkins, who, just to put it simple, is not a very good pitcher. Plus, we're on the road in Camden Yards, one of the best places to hit in all of baseball. And since you're on the road, you get those guaranteed nothing at bats as well. We have a team total of 5.5 for the Angels, which is pretty good for this offense because it's obviously not the greatest offense out there besides Shohei Ohtani. But when you get a matchup versus Watkins, you can definitely make accommodations to wanting to stack the entire team. So Shohei Ohtani, I mean, this is the obvious play here. He's been crushing lefties already. He's one of the best players in baseball. I mean, I don't have to tell you that Shohei Ohtani is a good play. He's priced like he is, but if you got the money for him, great. If you're stacking the Angels, there's no reason to leave off Ohtani, because if they put up a lot of points, it's probably because, or runs I should say, it's because of Shohei Ohtani. Fletcher's fine. Justin Upton at $3,400. I could see him being popular just because of the price point. He's got a little bit of power this season. Batting average isn't great. He does strike out quite a bit, but I do like the power upside. Jared Walsh at the let-down ready matchup there versus Watkins. And the rest of the lineup is kind of mush guys, but if you are full stacking them, I mean, you can choose your favorites. Shohei Ohtani, Justin Upton, and Jared Walsh should be my preferred options here from the Angels, but they're overall in a very, very good spot today. Flip side of this game, we have the Baltimore Orioles in the same hitter-friendly park in Camden Yards versus a pitcher that has a bit of a power problem. He's giving up over a 230 ISO on the season, and while I prefer using the Orioles versus left-handed pitching, we still have a team total of 5 here. The Angels bullpen isn't exactly great, and this is more of a cheap stack to use with an expensive stack today. Maybe just some mini stack here or some one-offs. I have no problem with that, but I think the Orioles are certainly in play, and I can't imagine they'll be too popular as well. But Cedric Mullins, $4,500. He's been amazing all season long, a 220 ISO with a 314 batting average. I prefer Mountcastle, Mancini versus lefties, but they're both fine with ISOs over 200 on the season. Santander's a dirt cheap option, batting cleanup with a little bit of pop in his bat. DJ Stewart, he is dirt cheap, has power versus righties. If you're looking for a real cheap home run call today, DJ Stewart is in play. Just know pretty much the only thing he does well is hit for power versus righties. So I mean, batting average is bad, and he's overall not a great player. But if you're looking for a cheap lefty on righty homer, DJ Stewart could be your guy today. And outside of them, I mean, I don't really want to have interest in anybody else unless you're really trying to get contrarian on the Orioles lineup, but I think 1 through 5 is certainly in play today. Last thing I want to talk about, we have my home team, Cleveland Indians versus Taylor Hearn here. He's just not that great of a pitcher. We have a team total around 5.5 for the Indians today at home, and a lot of these guys are not expensive whatsoever. Like, if you want to stack the Indians, it is pretty much the easiest thing to do, because outside of Jose Ramirez and Franmil Reyes, all these guys are super easy to fit in your lineups. Like, Miles Straw is only $2,800 leading off. He's been playing very well recently, plus he always has stolen base upside any single time he gets on base. Ahmed Rosario is kind of in the mid-range there at $4,000, but he's okay versus lefties. J Ram, one of the better players in all of baseball, plus he's been hitting pretty well recently. Whenever he's hot, the guy's a very streaky hitter, so when he's on a hot streak, I mean, it's usually a good time to hop on board, but he's very expensive, but I mean, he's worth every penny when he's on fire. Franmil Reyes is insanely expensive, but he has an ISO close to 300 this season. Then the rest of these guys are absolutely free. Mercado, like their numbers aren't great. Like they deserve these cheap price points, but it's a really good matchup. And Mercado's only 2,300, Owen Miller 2,500, Yu Chang 22, Austin Hedges 23, Ernie Clement $2,000. I don't know why that says he's a lefty. He's a righty. Gotta fix that there. But anyway, this entire lineup is playable, but mainly the top 4 guys because the rest is kind of absolute trash. But the 1 through 4 here is definitely a viable stack today, and you're really not spending too much money because I realize the 2 guys in the middle are super expensive, but then you have a guy that's $2,800, then $4,000, so they kind of offset each other, and you can definitely make that work today. And then the last thing I want to talk about, it's more of a vomit stack here. Like I don't really want to play the Rockies, especially away from Coors Field. But we do have very good hitting weather here, and the sad thing is we have really good hitting weather, but they only have a team total of 4.49 right now. So there's not a lot of confidence in Vegas for the Colorado Rockies here, and I get it. They are one of the worst teams in baseball away from Coors Field. Like they are absolutely brutal, but they're a little bit better versus lefties compared to righties. And some of these guys actually do have some solid splits versus left-handed pitching, like Connor Joe leading off here. It's a smaller sample size this season, batting 300 with a 280 ISO. Brendan Rodgers batting 309 with a 324 ISO. Trevor Story 250 ISO, 285 batting average. CJ Cron 301 ISO. Garrett Hampson 216 ISO. Like this is not the worst team out there versus left-handed pitching. I will say Justin Steele's got a good strikeout rate, but he does give a lot of power. On a 200 ISO good up this season with over 2 homers per 9. He's a little bit worse versus righties than he is versus the lefties. 2.4 homers allowed per 9 with a 246 ISO. It's a bit of a smaller sample size, but if you're looking for a real gross stack today that shouldn't have a ton of ownership, I think the Rockies are in a decent spot with the wind blowing out around 10 miles per hour, and it's going to be like 85, 90 degrees in Wrigley today, so should be very, very good hitting conditions, although I will say I'm not super excited about it. With that being said, I think that'll be it for the video, so I hope it was helpful, and if it was, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. If you want to take that one step further, an official member over on Patreon. Link is down below in the description for that. You do get access to a lot of extra content. And we'll have 3 sports going on in September, so the all sports package will never have as more value as it does at that moment. And like I said, if you do want to sign up, I can cut you a deal here and get you the rest of this month for free since you're signing up so late in the month. So check it out if you want. Link is down below, but I think it's going to be pretty much it. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday for the next video.